Hi there, my name is Zach, and I have the goal of reaching the Brisbane Olympics 2032 marathon. Now, as you can see on the screen right here, these are my current PBs, and I'm a long way from making that dream a goal. But I'm hoping, with a lot of determination, patience, and hard work, that I can make it. I would love it if you guys could join me on my journey to go from a below average runner, to a pro. With that said, let's get into today's video. Welcome back to the last morning of November. Tomorrow is summer, and it's a bit overcast today, a bit cloudy, which is nice. I don't think there's any chance of rain, but it's hanging around about the 9 degree mark, which is mint for running. A bit warm. I think I prefer winter where it's like -2, but as far as warm weather goes, this is not too bad. We're just out on an easy jog today. Nice casual 2 hours. I think we'll hit 16, 17, 18k, something like that. Yesterday I did a tempo session. We got 16k. I was supposed to do an hour and a half at tempo. I aimed for about 290 watts, which I hit. My heart rate was good, but I just couldn't do the whole session. I think I had 12 minutes left by the time I pulled a pin. My fitness is obviously still there. I was able to do most of it. It was just, I think, because I haven't done any real intensity for the last month, basically since Canberra. And yeah, it was just because it's the first effort. So it's just getting my body reacquainted as we move into the proper building block of Canberra Marathon, which in my mind started a couple of weeks ago, but probably realistically started this week. So I'm 19 weeks out from that, and then 31 weeks out from Sydney. We'll hit about 85k this week, which is pretty good. I think it's going to be my second biggest week ever, but it'll be about 10 hours. I think my biggest week was about 86.5 for 10.5 hours. So 1.5k less, but half an hour less in terms of duration. So you can see definitely quite a bit faster than even 6-7 weeks ago. So I've got 2 A races pretty much next year. Canberra being my first marathon and Sydney being my second. But realistically that's going to be the A race. I'm 39 weeks out from that at the moment, so it's not too far away. 6 months. Now I want to hear and see in the comments below, do you think I can go sub 4? I've said it before on this channel and I'll say it again. My goal for next year is sub 5 for the marathon. But looking at my training, looking what Stride says, and it says that sub 4 is definitely realistic, which gets me excited. I'm still 40 plus weeks away from actually racing it, so it's like, let me know. Either do you think I can do it, or flame me. Nah, you'll be a 6-hour marathoner, mate. You're weak. Too much zone 2. Get on the high intensity program. As I've already mentioned in this video, I'm targeting the marathon, multiple marathons next year, and I've learned quite a number of things in my training so far, because I've built up basically from nothing to being what I think is fairly competent at the half marathon distance. Now the marathon, completely different beast. So what I want to go through today, so there are 4 different things to work on if you want to maximize your marathon performance. The first one is your heart. Second is your muscles. Third is your ligaments. And fourth is your running efficiency and economy. And we'll go through all 4 of those today. Now, number 1 and number 2 are pretty similar. So the sort of work you do to improve both of them is actually basically the same. It's making sure you got the right time in the right zones. You want to get a lot of easy mileage to build up the heart and the legs used to the intensities. You also want to do enough high intensity to build your muscle and get your heart used to pushing a high volume of blood. The body makes significant adaptations to both stimulus. Now, I personally am a high supporter of the low intensity / zone 2 sort of training methodology. I'm currently on as I said, a 2-hour easy zone 2 run. Now, as you can see here, my heart rate is 130. I'm doing about 630 per K. That's my current pace. But if you look at my whole pace over the course of today's run, averaging 134 for 652. That is super low, for me at least. Even about 6 months ago, I was doing about 730 per K for heart rate in the 145s to 150. So you can see zone 2 is really important as it allows you to push faster for less perceived effort and less impact on the body. The difference between building your heart and your muscles, though, is that you can build your endurance, your heart endurance, through a lot of different sports. So you can do it through cycling, you can do it through swimming, skiing, running, obviously. But the difference is you won't get those muscle adaptations that you want. You can build up one of the issues that possibly a lot of triathletes and cyclists have when they move from their other sports into just running is cardiovascularly. They might be super strong, but they just don't have the strength in the muscles, the specific muscles, and the strength in the ligaments in order to push what their body can do. So imagine you've got an engine, a car engine with 1,000 horsepower, but you've only got 200 horsepower pistons. So while the engine itself might be able to push 1,000 horsepower, your muscles, your body is only able to push 400 because you haven't got the adaptations required, the muscles required in order to hit that 1,000 watts, that 1,000 horsepower of capacity. Now let's compare this fictitious person to another fictitious person. So let's say they've got a 500 horsepower engine being the heart, but they've got 200 horsepower pistons. So theoretically, they can push 600 horsepower through their muscles and ligaments. But because they've only got 500 horsepower, they're limited to how much they can actually push. So they've got spare capacity. And it means building up the heart would be so beneficial. Now, while this person's got less capacity overall, 500 horsepower versus the previous person at 1,000, the fact they've got 3 pistons, they can push. Well, they're not pushing utilizing all the capacity of it. They can push the whole 500. Whereas the previous guy, because he's only got 2, can only push 400 horsepower, which means he's underperforming to the capacity. It means that in a race, person 2 will always win, even though they've got a lower overall potential. They're utilizing more than the first person. And so that's why you got to work on both. You've got to build up your engine, you've got to build up your heart and lungs, but you've also got to work on the muscles and your efficiency in order to utilize and maximize the performance in that engine. Now, in order to build up your engine, you got to work at your various zones. Now, I've said before that zone 2 is fantastic, but in order to see improvements, it's not something you see today. It's not something you see tomorrow or even next month. The performance gain you get from doing zone 2 work is something you see in 6, 12, 24 months into the future. It is a long-term return. It's not one of these instant gratification training sessions like you get with the high intensity VO2. In saying that, you need to work on all of your zones. Have you heard of something called the grey zone? Now, previously, this was thought to be kind of like your zone 3 sort of work. It's not easy, it's not hard, it's just moderate. Now, zone 3 is my favourite sort of zone. You get some good bang for your buck. And it's a sort of method that a lot of the Norwegian method follows. This threshold sort of work. Big Blue, Brother Blue, big fan of him. And he loves obviously as a Norwegian, he's very big into the Norwegian method of threshold work. Now, this grey zone, being zone 3, has actually been debunked, but it's still thought of. The grey zone still exists. It's just slightly different. The grey zone is where you go too hard or too easy for that specific session. So if your session is zone 2, but you do it at zone 3, you're going too hard and you're in the grey zone. Alternatively, if you're doing threshold workout, which is zone 4, but you go zone 3 or zone 2, again, you're going too easy and you're in the grey zone. If you're doing zone 3 tempo, but you end up doing it at threshold, you're in the grey zone because you're pushing too hard and you're not working to your specific training intensity zone required for that session. For the marathon, zone 3 is one of the most important sessions. Marathon running is an aerobic sport. If you're doing something at around about the 1 hour mark, that's your threshold. And anaerobically, if you've got a massive anaerobic engine, you can kind of bodge it. You can use your anaerobic capacity to overcome at the 1 hour mark. But when you're pushing for an hour and a half, 2 hours, 2.5 hours and beyond, it's all about your aerobic capacity. That marathon running, realistically, it's zone 2. The difference between me and a top professional is that the difference between their zone 2, their zone 3 and their threshold is like 2 seconds per K. They've built up that aerobic base so high that they can push so fast for that lower zone. And while you might think they're pushing at threshold, they're not. Threshold's only a maximum of an hour. You physically cannot push a threshold more than an hour. So when these people are doing 2 hours, it's the top of their zone 2, bottom of zone 3. So that's why these tempo work is so important, because that is the main zone that you're running in. The number 3 thing I said to me to talk about is your ligaments and your tendons. Now, these are very tricky to train. This is the sort of thing you need a gym session to do. It is so important to make sure all your ligaments and tendons are as strong as possible. If you're coming from a different sport like triathlon or cycling, these sorts of tendons are not really thought about at all because they're unnecessary. Now, if you think about cycling from, let's say, another car perspective, pistons, your legs are essentially a piston. They go up, they go down, they go up, they go down. That's it. But they're staying strong and taut the whole time. It is just that one single movement. Whereas when you're running, it's similar muscles, but it's a completely different use of your tendons. Think of your tendons like a spring. As you step down, you are condensing it, pushing it down, compressing. And then when you get up, you're releasing that pressure and it is bouncing you forward. So that is why they're so important, because you need your tendons to be all springy. You don't want them to be super tight like you would as a cyclist. And that's where it gets tough. How do you train the ligaments and tendons to be springy, to be strong while they're springy? I'm definitely no expert at this. I've had a few issues lately. Not really issues, but I've had a little bit of pain in my left Achilles tendon recently. Not when running. When running it's been a little tight, but it's just when relaxing. Even in bed, I can feel it pulsing. Not sure why, but that's another thing I need to work on, because it's so important to keep that springiness, to make that spring stronger. So if you guys know good videos on YouTube about how to improve that aspect, chuck it in the comments below and I'll check them out, because it is going to be so important to my future to make sure I optimize that spring. Finally, we get to running economy, and there's a number of different metrics to track in relation to that. But what it essentially means is, if you're putting out 100 watts of power, how much of that gets transferred into speed and how much is just wasted? Now, as humans, we're not that efficient, but we can increase our efficiency. And that's why there's a few metrics I'm going to mention now to track, which will show progress and help you improve your running efficiency. So I'm going to talk about 3 of those sort of metrics that track running efficiency. That's vertical oscillation, stride length, and ground contact time. Now, I personally only track 2 of these metrics. I've got a whole spreadsheet with 5 different metrics tracked: heart rate, power, pace, ground contact time, and stride length. Vertical oscillation I've considered, but it's just not on my list of priorities to focus on at the moment. But those 3 that I just mentioned are all indicators of how efficient you are as a runner. Let's start with vertical oscillation. What does that mean? So vertical oscillation is how much your foot moves in the air relative to the ground. I'm not sure if it's counterintuitive for you guys, but actually the more your foot goes up, the more efficient you are. So it's actually more efficient for your leg to be right up by your bum than it is closer to the ground. And that's what vertical oscillation is trying to show. How close to that point of rotation can you get? Now, there are a lot of good resources on Stride about how to improve, a bunch of drills to improve all these metrics. I'll link it down below. So if you want to improve your vertical oscillation or your other efficiency metrics, make sure you check those out, as it's an invaluable resource. The last 2 metrics, stride length and ground contact time, are not metrics you want to work on in isolation, because what you do, if you improve either of those, it will then have an impact on your ligaments and on your muscles and the impact force that you're putting on your body. That's why I track those 2 in correlation for my other metrics, because they all work together. What do I mean by that? Let's say you increase your stride length. What does that mean? So let's, for example, say that you're running at 5 minutes per K. Doesn't really matter if you pick 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever, even 3, 4. I personally run at around about a 165 RPM. So that's about 80 to 85 steps per foot per minute. Now, if I increase my stride length, let's say I go from 80 centimeters to 1 meter, but I don't increase my pace. What that means is you'll be doing less steps per minute. Less steps per minute means there'll be more force going into your feet every time you step on the ground. More force means your body needs to be able to accept that level, push through and overcome it. If your body can only deal with, say, let's just use random numbers, 1 level of force, and 1 level is 80 centimeters. You then maintain the same speed, but you increase your stride length to 1 meter. That means your force, let's say, it goes up to 1.5. Your body can't handle that anymore. your body is 50% overloaded. And that's why I think you need to match it with your other metrics. How much you're improving your speed, how much you're improving your power. Because if you just improve this one metric, it will hinder your performance in other areas, slow you down, and make you more likely to get injured. Ground contact time is very similar. So what is ground contact time? So ground contact time is how long your foot spends on the ground every time you step. They say that a good ground contact time is about 200 to 300 milliseconds, with the pros being closer to 200 and the amateurs being 300 plus. But what that means is, if you get that down, it means there's less time on the ground to, like I said before, the spring, less time to compact the spring, and it means you need more force to get that compression before you then release it. So that's a massive impact on your body, because you're giving it less time to compress and release. Whereas if you have a higher ground contact time, it means yes, you'll be slower and less efficient. But over time, that will improve. But in the short term, less impact on the body, less potential for getting injured. And that's my main consideration. Injury. Consistency. It's the number one thing that will help you improve your speed, efficiency, and power. So you want to be cautious. You want to make sure you do it in a way that you can keep running every single day and not skip sessions unnecessarily. The reasons I don't personally focus on any of these efficiency measures is I've found that as I go more running, and the faster I go, the better I get, the more efficient I get. And that's possibly what will happen with you. If you're running twice a week, there's only so many efficiency gains you can make if you're not focusing on it. But if you're running every single day, your body will get used to that pounding, get used to that effort, and it will try and minimize the energy it spends. And so even without trying, you will get more efficient. With that said, thank you guys so much for watching. See you guys next week. Ciao.